Welcome to Sunday Night Safran. In-depth discussions on religion, politics and hoochies on Triple J.
Yes, we got... tonight we've got John Martinkus, author and journalist. We've also got... What is he doing? He's famous for having written Dirty Little War. Indonesia's secret
Iraq.
war, an art chair, Paradise Betrayed, and travels in American Iraq, and he was kidnapped in Iraq.
You know, I can ask him my favourite Iraq-based question, which I ask everyone, and Triple J listeners must be so annoyed every time there's any Iraq expert in here that I ask, is it true that in the olden days they used to spell it with a K at the end?
Yes, exactly. You've asked that before.
I know.
And even I know that it was spelt like that in World War II.
With a K?
With a K.
We'll still ask him. Even though we know the answer.
Yeah, you'll ask him. Well, he'll just...
I have no other questions. I have one
Your
question.
Your friend Roland Kapferer presumably won't be available.
This is one of my rare moments where I'm standing up for the left because there was someone in a protest during the anti-war protest was holding up a sign saying, "Get out of Iraq," and all the right-wingers started mocking, on the internet. It's like, oh, what a fool,
That's
what a
right,
fool.
yeah.
And then I was able to come on in and go, maybe he's not a fool. Maybe it's just he hasn't caught up to the new spelling. Because back in the olden days, he did spell it with a K.
Yeah,
Just get on to the next one.
Yeah, well, right, Kapferer, your friend.
Roland Kapferer.
Yes, must have something to say about
We've set him a task. Because he's, of course, Australia's leading laying the boots into America for every problem in the world. So I thought...
Including, what's his name, Castro's gastroenteritis.
Yes. He blames Bush for that. Roland Kapferer,
a kick in the guts.
If he wakes up with like a crink in his neck, he's blaming Donald Rumsfeld.
Especially on the left
Donald
side.
Rumsfeld's fault. He has a crink in his neck. If he then goes to get his Vita Brits for breakfast, and there's a cat hair in that, that's Halliburton. Halliburton put the cat hair in his Vita Brits. Anyway, so I put the challenge out to Roland Kapferer, political and anthropological and social expert, to come up with 5 human rights issues that us progressives should be interested in that you can't blame on America.
Oh, well, it's impossible.
Around the world. Yeah, because he's been brainwashed.
All to blame for everything. And also you've got, of course, we'll lift the bar a bit here with Louise Adler, who was the CEO of Melbourne University Publishing. Are you trying to get a book published or something?
Why is he?
Well, it's usually
so cynical.
Not cynical at all. Realistic.
How do you know?
Now.
Listen, how do you know I'm not trying to pick her up?
No,
because that could be
it's the book. The book.
You think it's
the book? As soon as I saw that, I said the book must be nearing completion.
Oh, really? I understand. So you really think I'm that tacky?
No, that's not tacky at all. That's being entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
I myself have a medal.
Yes. For
entrepreneurial skills. Yes, which is why I had to walk all the way from my home to here today because I couldn't afford the tram fare.
Did you? You did not walk.
I did.
You did
3
not.
3 miles. I
You
did. I did.
Are you telling the truth?
Dog saw me halfway, and then Dog said, "Enough. Go on the rest of the way on your own."
The credibility of this story would be a lot more credible if you didn't bring up the bit where supposedly a talking dog.
Oh, well, I thought that was more
made comment
understandable
halfway in, because now
this dog is not only a talking dog. This dog is a thinking dog.
Now we're going to be talking to her about book marketing because I'm fascinated by this. It's like how do books work or not? It's not like films. Films you can just like buy ads.
Yes.
And that seems to have some sort of roll-on effect.
Not
or
so
with
with
records, you send a little person to all the radio stations and try to get the radio programmer to spin your disc.
Yes.
But why
how does
books
Martinkus get his book travels in American Iraq?
Yeah, especially Australian books.
Yeah.
What sells? Why does something sell 15,000?
That's right. John Safran's biography.
And
are you going to have this other person on, or is this deeply?
No, we're having her on.
You sure?
But I don't know whether we're allowed to mention her name.
Don't
mention
her
names.
name. No names.
No names, because she's an Australian Iranian, which makes her... Does that make her Arabic? No, it makes her Persian.
Yes.
Anyway, she's going to be talking to us about her recent experience when she refused an arranged marriage proposal.
No names, because I don't
so much stuff going on out there in the little communities across Australia, we don't know about.
No. No, the reality.
You know how I found out about this? I was talking to this particular Persian, and I was trying to get on her side by bagging Andrew Bolt, because he'd just come in.
You had a lovely time from
Remember
Andrew
how
Bolt?
he sat here and he's there going, John, and he called me part of the teacher and preacher class.
That's right, yeah.
He doesn't know what's going out there in ethnic Australia.
Yeah, we don't know
He's trying to
what's going
bag
on.
all the, all the little ethnic people, like by saying they're all with their backward kind of cultures and they're all out. Anyway, so I'm trying to suck up to her. I'm going like, oh, anyway, we had this real right-wing reactionary guy, and he came in and he's saying there's all this kind of nutty stuff that's going on in ethnic Australia that, like, I don't know about. I'm like, come on. Anyway, and then she told me that 3 weeks earlier, because she's an Iranian Muslim, she was, dragged into an arranged marriage proposal that she had to. And she said, Andrew Bolt's right. So,
my God. You rang him straight away, of course.
No, I didn't.
said, Andrew, mate, John, mate, you were right, mate. Now, at the end of it, you've got an extra special religious song of the week.
Don't talk it up too much.
All right.
Because I didn't bring it in. And
Sistine Chapel Choir singing in fractured tones and made up of the boys who were not dealt with as castrati. A special release.
Father Bob.
What do you got all over your bloody hands?
Yeah, my pen leak.
Blood.
It's so annoying. Yeah, I've got blood on my hands metaphorically, but I have biro on my hands literally.
Well, I mean, that puts me off.
No,
I'm
it's
a
not even
professional.
this is like a fine tip pen. This cost me like
professional.
$4.90. You know when you go in there to buy a pen and you go for the slightly classier one because you have this sort of picture in your head that finally everything's going to come together.
Yeah.
Like when you get exactly the right notepad and exactly the right pen. So, I'm there with my mole skin. And unlike the other mole skins, mine's actually made out of genuine mole.
Yeah?
And I get this pen and now it's all over
moles?
myself.
We haven't got any moles, have we?
I get very confused when people are having a political debate. I can't separate the person from what they're arguing. So, for example, if someone's irritating, they can be standing up for something I believe in, but I turn against it. Do you do that too? Against the cause.
You personalise everything.
Yeah, so someone can be standing up for like my family, but if they did it in an irritating way, by the end of it,
them.
Yes.
Oh, that's a very interesting.
Because my Uncle Jeff, and my brother-in-law, Jeff Bozek, so two Jeffs, they're fighting over the Middle East on Shabbos on Friday night.
That's unusual.
And so Jeff Bozek starts with his pro-Israel stuff, and he's so irritating. Like, by the end of it, like, I'm anti-Israel.
Yeah.
But then Uncle Jeff starts standing up for the Arabs, for the Arabs. And by the end of that, I'm so irritated with his kind of self-righteousness that I'm confused as to whose side I'm on. Maybe the Mexicans or something. That was the only side I could possibly be on at the end of it was something that wasn't brought up. How do you do that? How do you separate the irritating people
This
from
is every Friday night.
Every Friday night.
For, 3,000-4,000 years or something? It's no wonder, Jono, I'm really honest to God, you've introduced a whole new dimension into human relationships. So we don't... Yes, right. Well, let's get... Look, what are you appearing in the paper for? I'm reading through something for homework the other day, and I'm reading about what Chaser has to say. That's the thing on Channel 2 on Friday nights. And it says here, whether to set people up in stunts as they do...
Because the Chaser got in trouble. It's not my fault. The guy who wrote that article, he went to Northbourne Primary School.
He's quoting you.
Yeah, but the guy who wrote the article went to Northbourne Primary School, my primary school. Patrick Buchanan, is that his name?
Oh, yeah.
And so when he rings me and asks for a quote, I've got like that blood bond where I can't kick him back. Have you seen this kind of sort of related to that? That's all about the Chaser getting into trouble.
Lied to priests. That's what he says.
Look at this. A new terrorist hoax offence that will allow people who make elaborate threats to be prosecuted without proving they intended to carry out an attack is being planned by the federal government.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
They've got that if you go to Virgin Air, they've got a little sign there saying we take jokes about terrorism serious. Like they warn you, don't do a gag or don't, we understand it's Australia and everyone's sarcastic and likes taking the piss.
Yeah.
But here's a sign,
Jones,
basically a sign saying don't take the piss because you'll get in trouble.
Yeah, I can understand that. I flew Virgin on Friday.
Yes.
And I was asked to take the tea towel from around my head, which I thought was going a bit too far, only it was offering to dry the dishes. Anyway, be that as it may.
Coming
it's
up
true.
next.
No joke, they've lost their sense of humour. See, they're Brits, aren't they?
Who?
Branson's Virgin. Yeah, no sense of humour. As we can... What did you say? Dr. Martinkus is on now, any minute from now.
Father Bob, can you please introduce our
It's my
Lithuanian guest?
And my privilege to introduce John Martinkus, the writer of Dirty Little War and Indonesia's Secret War in Aceh, and you were also, were you not, in detention in Iraq?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just briefly.
Well, it's and John, we should be standing up because you and I do sweet FA for the cause, and this man's been through hell.
How did you end up in detention in Iraq?
Well, basically, I got kidnapped out the front of my hotel. It's a pretty well-known story. I was just driving out to do some filming, and I got basically carjacked by people who were looking to kidnap an Australian for political reasons.
And you're sure it was political? After you've had months and months to mull it over in your head? And
yeah, look, what they wanted, they were after a foreign hostage, and one of the first things they told me, actually, was, don't worry, we're Mujahideen, we're not criminals, we are not after money, which, really put me at rest. It was basically, they wanted an Australian and they wanted a contractor, and the reason why they grabbed me was because they were suspicious. They didn't think I was a journalist. They thought I was a spy or a contractor, and of course contractor in Iraq means people who carry weapons for money. So, that's what they were really after.
And do you just adjust instantly to a totally foreign experience? Like...
No. No, I was utterly terrified, and it was the very night before. I'd been sitting around at the Hammer Hotel, which is where all the journalists stay, and there was probably about 15 journalists left there then, and we'd been drinking beer and talking about the recent spate of kidnappings, and and I'm sort of like, after a few beers, sort of declaring that. They'd never get me, sort of thing. I'd fight to the last. Because of course we're all aware of what had been going on. We had to report it. There'd been a series of beheading videos, all that kind of thing. That had just happened. This is back in 2004. So straight away, I started thinking of trying to get out and trying to run. So it was quite difficult because you're thinking, well, if I try to run, I'll get shot. Can I make it? Like, there's one point where we're going past some Americans and, you're like, well, what are they going to see? They're going to see a guy running towards them with a beard, looking crazy. They're probably going to shoot me. And I'm also probably going to get shot by the people behind me. So it's a pretty bad situation to be in.
And when things like this happen, both sides want to use the incident as some sort of... propaganda tool? Is that too strong? Like to reflect something bigger, like either this proves that these people are savages, or this proves these people are so oppressed that they're forced to do something like this. Were you happy that your incident was used by both sides?
No, I was actually very angry about that. Basically, when I was released, I didn't speak to any press in Baghdad except for a couple of friends to tell them what had happened. Who were also assisting me in leaving the country. I left the country, and what happened was, whilst I was on the plane in the morning flying to Jordan, Downer made that statement saying basically that it had been my own fault. And I touched down in Jordan, and I go outside of the terminal to have a cigarette, as you do, and there was a pack of press there, and there was an ABC journalist there who I know, and he basically said, look, what's your response to what Downer said? And I said, what did he say? And he told me, and I was furious. And I said, oh, look, well, this is what I think. He's totally wrong. He doesn't even know what happened. And that's basically what had happened. I think he'd been misinformed about what had gone on or where I'd been kidnapped or something, somewhere along the line. And he'd made this very arrogant statement that it basically put the blame back on me, and I was angry about that because I was like, well, in that instance, I was nowhere dangerous. I was just outside, basically where the Australian embassy is. And ironically, it's the only part of Baghdad that was supposed to be secured by Australian troops. So anyway, so I responded to that. By the time I got back on the plane and flew all the way back to Australia, I came out of the airport and I was just very happy to be back. And I was very tired. I hadn't slept for a couple of days. And I basically said I'd been well treated and I'd been released. And that, by the time I woke up the next morning and got a cab in at SPS, Alan Jones and Stan Zemanek and John Laws and all that mob were already insinuating that A, the kidnapping had never happened, and B, that I was some kind of supporter of terrorists, which really, just made me furious. It was like after everything I'd been through in the last couple of days before that, I was just ropeable. I was very angry. I didn't go public and respond other than through SBS at the time because I basically was so angry about it. I just thought if I go and talk to someone like, someone who's attacking me in that way, I'll just lose control and I'll make an idiot of myself.
Yeah, I want to try on the comparison because I'm old.
Yeah.
1966, the Battle of Long Tan reminds me of the Vietnam War and all the kerfuffle about whether it was a civil war and whether we were on the right side or not. Similarity with Iraq. Because I'm a bit nervous because all the signs now are the signs that were around then. Because we thought we knew who was wrong and we thought we knew who we were fighting for and who we were fighting against. And that confusion built up and up and up until eventually the Americans went on top of the roof and the helicopter came and took them all away. It feels a bit the same with this, and certainly it feels like that in the Gaza Strip.
Yeah, look, I haven't been back to Iraq since 2004, but that was quite a pivotal year in that at the start of the year you had, with the press, we go to briefings, we speak to Americans every day, and at the start of the year, they were quite upbeat about it. They were bringing democracy, and to a certain extent, you could sort of agree with them. Although the insurgency was starting to get worse and worse. So basically, between about March and about July, that was the big turning point. And then you could really see that the Americans were still mouthing the same platitudes, but people were really, even the officers themselves, were really less and less inclined to believe it. And you could really see that by the end of the year, by October, the morale was getting quite low. And people were basically no longer talking about bringing democracy.
One of the turning points was, of course, when the Americans chased the local Vietnamese into the arms of the Viet Cong because they made a choice. They chose Viet Cong, who were supposed to be the enemy of the people, against the liberators. And the same kind of thing seems to be happening in Iraq, when people are being actually almost chased into the hands of...
Yeah, and I think as the violence got worse, the isolation of the foreign forces there became much more evident, and the level of violence that the foreign forces employed to respond to any incident became a lot more overwhelming and a lot more, I suppose, I was going to say random, but, basically, the old joke about how Americans respond to a roadside bomb is to fire in 360 degrees around where they are. And that, I've seen it happen, it's true. And this, of course, does nothing to endear them to the local population. No. So, and the old thing of now, of course, you've got all the car bombs, you've got all this all the suicide bombers. So if an Iraqi does so much as drive a little bit too close to an American vehicle, their car gets shot up. And so this just plays right in the hands of the insurgents, and it creates this huge divide between them and us. Yeah. And so now it's got to the point where you can't... we were trying to report from within the Iraqi community, and basically what happened was, I got kidnapped, some other people got killed, some other people got kidnapped, and basically so now you don't really get that kind of reporting because it's just too dangerous to do. And so we were sort of victims of this kind of them and us approach coming from the Iraqi side. It was like the level of hatred so much that, like, if you're a foreigner, even if you're just there trying to report and you're not even armed, they'll kill you just out of revenge because one of their family's been killed, or they just hate you so much.
We should take the title of the book is Travels in America and Iraq. Is that the emphasis?
Yeah, well, look, and I was sort of fortunate that I was there at a time when you could travel around because, I wrote that book from a trip I made early in 2004 when we could drive around. We could drive down south to Basra, we could go up to Kurdistan, we could go to Fallujah even. But very quickly, after I wrote that book, like in June, July 2004, it just started to become so dangerous outside of Baghdad, and indeed inside of Baghdad, that, the old joke we used to say was like, at the start of the year we could go pretty much anywhere in the country. By the middle of the year, we couldn't go to Baghdad. By the end of the year, we couldn't even leave our hotels, So, and that has pretty much remained the same since then,
Got to go. John Martinkus, author and journalist. Best book ready to be picked up in the best bookshops. Travels in American Iraq by John Martinkus.
I remember when I was doing Race Around the World, that documentary show where you arrive in a country and you have to come up with a story within 10 days, that sometimes you'd kind of go into because you daydream, right? Like, we all daydream. Like, I wouldn't consciously try to be this sort of screwed in the head, but when like the days were ticking down and you hadn't got a good story yet, you'd start kind of daydreaming and fantasizing about something disastrous happening that you would just incidentally be walking by, and therefore it would make a great story. I'm telling you, there were a few countries in Restaurant where I would have dreamed to have been like Martinkus and, being kidnapped. Yeah. Just desperate, sort of like, it's like, oh my God, the deadline's coming. I'm here in Brazil. All I've got is this stupid story about goddamn confession. Oh my God, I'm stuffed, I'm screwed. And then, oh my God, how fantastic.
Limo draws up.
And somehow in my head I'd be thinking, I can be kidnapped by these kind of street bandits in Brazil, but they'll still let me film it. And, it'll be cool.
Or they'll say, it's John Safran we've kidnapped, comrades. He might like to make a series out of this, comrades.
And I'd be like, I don't mind kneeling here.
Where's the priest,
in front of this, but can you just put this, like, lapel mic on you just there? Is it okay, cool. Yeah. And before you come at me, can I just get the white balance right? It's very...
Yeah, it's touch and go between sanity and insanity, but then that's the difference between genius and being a ratbag, isn't it?
Thanks a lot for asking me about my red eyes.
Yeah, I noticed... I can't see red eyes. What do you got wrong with your eyes? Have you had your eyes done?
This is... How much of...
Have you been to Mr. Meadow, Nick?
I'm being punished for good behaviour. What happened was, Michelle Moo, not to be confused with Michelle Bennett.
No.
Michelle Moo.
Yeah, Moo got in touch with me last week.
She's like, I'm going to the chiropractor.
John said you won't
come
go
along.
to Scotland.
She goes, I'm going to this chiropractor, he's great, you should come along, and I'll book you in, right? And I'm thinking, oh, okay. Because I just thought, maybe it's a bit like a masseuse or some massage or something like that. Then I turn up there, and the guy, like, he's not a regular masseuse, even though he's an energy shifter chiropractor. Yeah. So he doesn't actually, like...
Or drives a truck or something.
No, he doesn't crack the bones.
No,
he does that...
Right.
He does, it's kind of like crossing into kind of tarot, Byron Bay kind of dream catcher kind of territory, right? Anyway, so I'm lying there.
God, you must be easy to get in.
What?
But the Sheila says come to the chiropractor and you end up...
Well, the worst bit was, because I kind of wasn't thinking that hard. I was too busy fantasising about being kidnapped and being able to film it, right?
Cubans.
So I thought I could just turn up and he'd massage my shoulders or whatever. And then I'm sitting there and he's going, well, what's the problem? And I'm thinking,
he couldn't find the shoulders.
I don't have a problem. So I have to, start amping everything up. I've been working a lot on the computer recently, and it's kind of, I'm really
hunched you over
and stuff like that, and all of it not true. Anyway, so I lie there, and then he does all this weird stuff.
What?
Where he puts his finger in your belly button, and he goes...
What was this place, for God's sake?
And he does this on your head, like that.
Sure it wasn't Gotham City.
And he does all this stuff, and he talks about how he goes, I don't do that thing where I crack the bones. It's all about shifting energy. That's why most of my clientele are women. I don't know what that meant. But I think he already sussed out that I was a bit confused and like I was expecting a regular one. Anyway, so I'm lying there and he's doing this thing where he's sticking his finger in my belly button and then going like this on my head, like clucking on my head, right? And I'm lying there and then suddenly I hear a cough. And then there's like this spray of... Because I'm lying there, I'm directly underneath, Hiroshima style. I'm definitely underneath it. And it's just like this whole spray of cough falls on my face. And I'm thinking, did that guy just cough on me or whatever, right? And it's like 2 minutes later and then... and a whole spray of cough falls on me or whatever. And
Where's Moo?
Moo's in the other room. She's like... She went before me.
She set you up.
A few hours later... My eye starts going, like I'm back at home, and my eye starts going red.
Oh, my God.
And then I wake up the next morning, and I can't open my eye because the kind of the sleep and pus has glued the eyelashes
from
together.
From that man.
Well, I don't know. Then I go to, of course, this is just a regular doctor who's got like 7 years of training at the university. So,
he said, what's wrong with
he's
my
not a
eyes?
dream catcher or anything. So I go to my regular doctor and I say, oh, listen, I don't know what's going on or whatever. And he goes, oh, yeah, it's conjunctivitis. Is that what it's called? I'm going, oh, how do you get that? Like, how did I just get that? Or whatever. He goes, oh, I don't know, do you swim? I go, oh, no, I wasn't swimming. He goes, oh, did anyone cough on you? And I said, well, yes, I was lying underneath it.
A practitioner.
And, so now I've got to put these droplets in my eye.
Oh, that's very, isn't it? That's...
And this is how pathetic... Like, can you tell me what's wrong with me, right? I'll bag this guy on radio.
Yeah.
Right? I'll go around... I talk about nothing else, right? I got a phone call... from the woman at the surgery with like a follow-up thing. They do a kind of marketing thing.
What's she say, how your eyes are?
Yeah, she goes, no, not how much. She rings me up. She goes, oh, yes, I'm from the blah, blah practice.
Yeah.
And how have you been? And I just go, I go, oh, yeah, great, good. And I don't have the guts to tell her that I've got conjunctivitis.
What, that you were finding it hard even to find the phone?
Dreamcatcher chiropractor coughed on me. I couldn't say it to her.
I don't know what's wrong with you blokes. I really don't. You must. It's terrible to even to wake up in the morning and
punished for good behaviour. I try to open myself to new things.
Well, you could name him now publicly, and we could name him now.
No.
See,
in my line of work, I've noticed there's this thing like because you know how you've got the a legitimate medical profession, and then you've got like the tarot card dream catcher profession. Yeah. I've noticed in my research in the line of business I am. There's this kind of like in-between bit where they set themselves up in locations that make them look like regular practitioners, but what they're doing is, what's a non-pejorative way of saying nut bar? Like,
eccentric.
Yeah, what they're doing is sort of like,
odd,
non-rational, non-scientific, but they're putting themselves in a location that just looks like a regular... a regular medical practice.
Yeah. Say you've got a diseased chiropractor, who coughs in your eyes and pushes your belly button. I mean, it's the listeners, I suppose, they've said in the guest book they love all these little trips around your person, So you'll go back?
No, I'm not going to go back. Even I know where to draw the line.
Well, what about Moo? Do you tell her off for taking you there to some...
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe we'll ring her up later in the show.
I think so, and accuse her. Listen, this poor boy can't even see the microphone.
Coming up next...
is Roland Kapferer.
Sunday Night Safran on Triple J.
Thank you, Father Bob. This is Triple J. I am John Safran. On the line, we have political analysis... Roland Kapferer. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you going, John? And Father Bob?
You're all right, Roland, mate.
Now, I set you a mission.
Yeah.
Because, when I was young, when I was going to uni, right, this is what the argument was. It was, we know all about the evil stuff that, the communists do or that the Arab world does, but we don't know about... what America does. So, there was this big campaign to kind of show that America does all this awful stuff as well. And then somehow over the last 10 years, it's all floated and it's come to this point that just America is responsible for everything bad in the world. So I thought I'd set you the mission of 5 human rights issues that progressive people should be concerned about around the world that you can't blame America for.
I mean, in a way, it's a frighteningly easy question, John, to answer that. I mean, there's so much in one sense that you can't blame America for at all. I mean, it really depends how you look at conflict. It's a amazingly complicated event, and in any particular situation, it's organic to its local situation. So, I mean, I could pick endless conflicts around the world at the moment. Most of the conflicts in Africa, the Eritrean, Ethiopian war would be one, or the conflict in the Ivory Coast or in Rwanda. I could pick the internal conflicts in China with various provinces in China, or the Chinese Tibet conflict. I could pick.
So you've gone through about 18 then.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many that you couldn't directly.
But don't some people?
The US for.
Some people.
I mean, this is the problem. I mean, most people do blame the US. I mean, there's a. I mean, well, the kind of on the left, if there's anything like the left, there's a lot of public intellectuals and people, Chomsky, for example, who will continually sort of place America as the kind of the background to any kind of conflict. And I think in some ways that's okay, but I hate to say it because he's a great guy and all that, but he's kind of out of touch. I think the way the world is going it's changing so rapidly and fragmenting so much that I think the idea of having America as the kind of big daddy in the background, it's almost comforting to old lefties in a way. You can have, it's America. It's some kind of comfort thing or security that you can always. And you know what?
But you can blame America when they do something, but you can also blame them when they don't do something.
Well,
so some of those conflicts in Africa, for example, that you're saying America's not responsible for, you do hear that they are responsible because you say, well, why aren't they getting involved? Why aren't they putting more pressure on the Sudanese government, for example?
I mean, well, at some level, you could say that, and I mean, people do. It's such a frighteningly complex thing. At any level, yeah. I mean, the Americans, there's no doubt from basically 1945 to the late 70s or the 80s, the Americans were the sort of the dominant hegemonic power around the globe. They controlled everything. They structured the world in terms of their own interests, and they are still the biggest military power by a long shot, and economically. But this is fading, and lots of analysts are saying this is starting to crumble and crack, and there's so many signs of that. I mean, even Al-Qaeda itself is a sign of the fragmenting and the decline of the American control of world economy. I mean, in a way,
okay,
one of the most interesting things that happened recently is that discussion between Bush and Blair. The off-mic discussion.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? Where if it revealed anything, that discussion, it revealed just how little those two guys know about what they're talking about. I mean, it was just the kind of conversation that anyone in the street that had read a newspaper would have. And I mean, these guys, there really is a sense of a kind of a world that's exploding in conflict. And the Americans have very little ability to control that in all its various manner. So if you say, the Americans should get involved in the Ivory Coast, or they should, support, sure they should, and they should try, but I think they can't. I mean, the whole idea of the national state, the whole idea of states in conflict is falling apart. And the Americans just do not have the ability to stop all this. I mean, they're as much victims. I mean, Bush if you look at Bush, he's the image of a kind of, as much as he's kind of the evil, guy that everyone makes him out to be, he's actually, I think, the image of someone that's just out of control. He has no sense of what's going on. He clearly, there's just a radical uncertainty in the world today, and most of the conflicts are out of anyone's hands, and they have very kind of complex.
Okay, so if we say the Ivory Coast, there's one, then we've got China. You're saying America's not responsible for that?
Well, of course not. The Chinese have incredible internal problems. They're fighting with with numerous sort of kind of old Mongolian kind of provinces. The Chinese are a force all to their themselves, and they certainly the conflict between Taiwan. At some point, I have to keep on saying, the Americans have been the hegemonic, massive, dominant power in the world, and at some point you could always say, oh well, they are in the background.
Because they trade with China or something like that. You can blame them.
They're in the background. But the Americans are in debt to the Chinese now. There are massive transformations happening. You can always say the Americans are at some point, but it's almost banal to say that. The classic example now, I would say, is the conflict between the Israelis and Hezbollah, or Israelis and Hamas, for that matter. The Americans are sort of, you can say, the Americans are in the background there. They're sort of, it's up to them that they're supporting Israel or whatever. That's crap. It's absolute. In a way, it's crap. Yes. At some ultimate level, somewhere in the heavens, they could be blamed in one way or another. But it's irrelevant. It's the Israelis that are fighting with Hezbollah. It's certain groups in the Israeli government that are fighting. It's not all Israelis that are fighting with Hezbollah. It's the IDF and certain people controlling the IDF that are fighting with Hezbollah or Hamas. And I think in this particular example, you're really seeing a classic case of what I think is the Jewish death wish. They are willing themselves into being forced into the sea. The Israelis will be the big losers here. At the moment it's all how terrible it is for the Lebanese, and that's true. It's terrible for the Lebanese. There's no doubt about that. I'm not saying it's not an awful thing that's happening. It's terrible what the Israelis are doing. But just today the Israelis lost 15 soldiers. It's all the same crap that happened with the Iraq involvement a while ago. It's happening again. What the Americans did in Iraq. The Americans can be blamed for Iraq, I think. But what the Americans are doing in Iraq, massive displays of military power, and then suddenly, it's not quite working out the way we thought it was. The Iraqis are more have a stronger power than we thought. It's happening in Israel at the moment.
Roland, we've got to play some music, mate.
Oh, shit, sorry. I'm sorry about that.
Because you've got to stay there.
We can stay there.
We're just asking you to pause with your insane rant. We're not asking you to wind up.
No, this is encyclopedic. Beautiful.
We're back with Roland Kapferer. He went through 3, including a controversial one, where he says America's not to blame.
Yeah.
Ivory Coast, and then more broadly Africa. Yeah. Then he went to China, and then he controversially claims the current Middle East conflict between the Lebanese and the Israelis.
That's driving me mad too, myself.
Is not America's responsibility.
Hamas. We haven't heard of Hamas for months. Hezbollah, yes.
What are your other two? And this time I'm trying to sound less like a crazy person. Because I brought you on because I thought it'd just be bang, issues. And it'd be lots of clarity, and you wouldn't sound like the lunatic that you have sounded like for the past 3. Right, so two more that struggles that America's not responsible for.
Okay, we've already talked about them before. Chechnya would be one.
Oh, yes.
Ah, yes.
Mm-hmm. And probably the Sri Lankan conflict between the Sri Lankan government and the Tamils.
There you go. Well, there you see, that was better. Was that so hard?
No.
I think it's like...
I'm telling you, it's easy to find. I'm not an American basher.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those idiots.
Well, that's not entirely true.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go right.
Cuba and Fidel.
Yes.
Well, your expatriates all jumping up and down saying, thank God he's sick and thank God he's dying, and when it's all over, we'll all see what a filthy mess they've made of Cuba. But I got an uneasy feeling about all that. How do you feel about Cuba?
Oh, I think it has become a bit of a sinkhole.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like
no
kind of the sex capital of that whole area. I mean, I think it's like anything. I mean, but here again, this is a case where you could say, well, the American embargo has certainly not helped.
You know, Jesse the Body Ventura from the World Wrestling Federation of my youth, who then went on to... He was the one who went on to become a politician in the United States, wasn't he? Didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Governor
him.
of what?
Of whatever. He was going to go to Cuba, and then some travel advisor, like they said, oh, Jesse's going to Cuba, do you have any advice? And the travel advisor said, like to the media, just going, well, you know, he should do this and this, and we hope he doesn't partake in the sex trade. That's because Cuba's... lots of Americans go over there for the sex trade, and he meant it generally, right? He wasn't having a go at, but it got all confused, and then Jesse the Body Ventura started legal action. See how I made a little geopolitical kind of talk? Yeah. I made it kind of more kind of bubbly and pop culture-y by dragging in the World Wrestling Federation.
Mm. And he's just destroyed my idea that
you should try a bit of that. How can we do that with Sri Lanka? How can we make that? Oh, I know. What about, what's her face? That rapper, you know, that British rapper. What's her name?
Missing in MIA.
Yeah, MIA.
Yeah.
Yes. She wouldn't say America's...
Is she a Tamil?
What? I think
missing
she might be. I'm nearly
sure.
sure we've gone down this path sometime before on this show about MIA and her Tamil connections. Anyway, triplej.net.au/Safran. If you know whether MIA, the British rapper, is a Tamil.
Yeah. But you really think I was sounding crazy before? And I'm not sounding crazy at all.
It's probably the Israel-Lebanon one where it's like everyone kind of goes, well, just so much money's pumped in to the Israel side by the American government that possibly...
That's the standard thing. I mean, but the Americans support a lot of governments with money.
That is true. What you just said then. Like I was surprised at how much the other Arab nations get, like Egypt. Like when you grow up and hearing about being brainwashed by Chomsky and Pilger about how much money.
So I don't want to attack Chomsky and Pilger so much, but they are really, Chomsky, for example, he's really just an American guy. He's an American guy. All his argument basically ever is America. I support America. I support its liberal traditions, and I just think it's in conflict with those liberal traditions. That's all he. I mean, everything he says comes down to that. And
then he's got that kind of get out of jail clause where he. If you say anyone else is responsible for anything, he goes, yes, but I'm an American, so my moral obligation is to just criticise the Americans. And that just gets him off the hook at any point if someone says, well, what about this other government? What about these other people?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's a bit where you're meant to go, like, because you know what the listeners were doing? They were going, I wonder if what John's saying is, like, right or not right or whatever, right? And then if you would have come in and said, exactly... I would have sounded like intellectual.
He acquiesced.
Instead, you came back in and went,
He tacitly approved.
Anyway, go on.
I don't tacitly. I mean, you're as right wing as you've ever. I mean, you've got different right wing problems. I think.
Well, how am I right wing? Ever since I had Andrew Bolt on the show.
No, I think actually you're actually proving yourself to be more kind of old hippie left at the moment. How can you say that the Americans aren't responsible for the Israeli attack on the...
I don't know. I just get, as I said, I was talking about this before in the show. My problem is I just get instantly annoyed by anyone who's got a political opinion ever. that I always go against it. Like, so I thought, like when I went to America... Because the talk radio was so right-wing, I instantly became left-wing, if you know what I mean. Like within about 7 minutes of just listening to the radio. But then I'll come back here and I'll have to hang around Brunswick Street and see all the just the ridiculously self-righteous hippies. And then I become, an arch-conservative. How can I strip away all that and find out what I truly believe, Roland Kapferer?
Look to yourself. Look inside yourself, John.
Yeah, thanks.
Lots of meditation. Become a Buddhist or something like that.
You might just be a global citizen. See, as Roland says, states are disappearing. How long do you reckon before the nation states will go?
They're not going in that sort of way. They're around and they're around and they're a force to be reckoned with. China would be an example of that.
Yes.
But there's massive changes afoot, and I mean, particularly in the global power of the United States. That's on its way
out.
That's on its way out. I mean, but it's going to be. I mean, it's still massively the power to be reckoned with, and so it might go out. It won't go out with it'll go out pretty nastily.
Who's
but
next?
at some point, the dollar is going to lose value. That's what a lot of people will say.
Now Kapferer is one notch away from bringing the Illuminati and the Freemasons
Yes.
and the Bilderberg Group in this.
Yes.
No, I'm just the voice of political reason in this miasma of uninformed opinion that you guys...
Do you know David Ikes? David Ikes, is that his name? He's that British guy who...
denies...
He's got some sort of vague kind of lefty kind of... He writes these books, right? And they're all sort of things that would tap into the kind of Chomsky demographic, like, we've got to look at the World Trade Center thing a bit closer, like, did America really not know that it was going to happen and stuff? So everything that taps into that, and that's all fine, I guess, for that market. But then he always brings up in all these books, because he's got this theory that George Bush and the royal family are lizards. And he wrote one actual book about it, like where that was the main thing. But then all these other books are just sort of... He doesn't bring it in until about chapter 11. So you're kind of like, you're reading it and it's like, oh, yeah, I guess the banks and the Freemasons maybe, sort of, if I...
See, that's the thing, conspiracy theories, that's the American invention, that sort of X-Files thing from years ago. That sort of... the Americans... thrive on conspiracy in that.
Yes.
When I was in England,
I mean, everyone does. A conspiracy. That's the problem with the world at the moment. If you want, there is absolute confusion, and all things like postmodernism, those sorts of ideas have sort of made everybody massively uncertain. There's a sort of global uncertainty and fear that's developing and spreading, where everyone's like, this is your situation, John. That's I mean, if I
we're all
say
confused.
Your problem is that, and you just go for the kind of the John Safran. I don't know. I'm just confused. On the one hand,
I sound nothing like that. I sound more like Julio Iglesias. If you're going to impersonate me, make it deep and more Julio Iglesias-like. When I was in England, shut up! You've made fun of my list.
See, now we're right in the talk show.
Now you've really hit about something I care about. Go on about the Lebanese, Israelis, fine. Yeah, don't make fun of my list though. Hey, when I was in England, this guy came up to me and he was going, John, you should, the Americans are bad and stuff like that. And he goes, you should read this guy David Ikes. Because he tells you all about it and about how the banks and the American government, they knew about the World Trade, blah, blah, blah. You've got to read this guy. And I was one of the few who had read it. I'd read all these lists. So I said to the guy, I'm going, I've kind of read his book. And it's like, but, that whole thing that George Bush is a lizard? Like, that's like where I kind of got to the point where I was like, the guy's blushing a bit. And he's there going, yeah, well, obviously not everything he says is true, but, just most of it or something like that. And I'm like, no, if you're bringing in that George Bush and the royal family are lizards, that kind of discounts everything else. You can't be mainly right except for the lizard bit.
But hang on, you're misunderstanding the global situation again here, which is that it's just massive uncertainty. Everything, relativism is rife, so that basically it could be that George Bush is a lizard. I mean, in some sense, we've got this massive privatisation of knowledge. Everyone, a whole bunch of bozos sitting in front of their laptops, in various, coffee shops, and no one communicating in it. I mean, privatisation of knowledge, privatisation, and so basically, the left, the right, everyone's disagreeing with each other. Everyone's basically mutual. All the arguments are mutually subversive. No one actually. There's no sort of stable ground anymore. So basically, Bush could be that. you'll find a number of people that will say, oh, yeah, that's possible, I don't know. And the whole conspiracy thing has gone crazy. So basically, in this world, I mean, even that Bush and Blair conversation I was talking about the other day, about, where they were overheard on the mic. I was talking about that with someone the other day, and they oh, yeah, but that's just, that was just a put-up job. That's not real. That was actually faked, so people would think blah 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 blah. It's bottomless. People's suspicion and sense of being, the tail wagging the dog sort of thing.
Lizards wagging the tail. Excuse me, I've got confused now.
It's ridiculous. The world is such now that, everyone's opinion. I mean, I notice on Big Brother or something like that, the thing now is to be, what's her name's really good because she's opinionated. Opinionated used to mean that you didn't have a bloody clue what you were talking about.
Right.
But now it means, you've got really good sense of yourself and you're a really go-ahead person and you're strong-willed or whatever. It's ridiculous. Opinionated means you don't have a clue. It's not knowledge. I mean, but that's the way the world is. It's become everyone's guess is as good as anyone else's.
This is the flagship for opinionated programming.
That's what I'm telling you.
Yes.
Thank you, Roland Kapferer. We hope to have you on again soon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, good.
I like you. You're an okay guy.
Yeah, I like
And
it.
I do a good John Safran impersonation.
Yes. Yes, Tarzan.
Go to a song.
You're listening to Sunday Night Safran on Triple J.
This is Triple J. I'm John Safran. Father Bob, I believe, you have to, you need to find love or you're going to grow old and alone
like
and
me.
die in your flat, right?
All you
so you have
need
to find
is
someone.
love.
And because of that, it kind of doesn't... I'm not that fussy about... that whole thing about, you work together or something like that. You shouldn't go out or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like just... It's hard enough to avoid being old and alone, in a flat about to die.
How do you know?
Without setting up all these kind of barriers. Like, for example, I reckon if you went to a doctor's office, right, and there was a bit of frisson. Is that the right word? Frisson? Does that mean?
That's interesting.
You see, I reckon you should be able to hook up. Like the doctor and the patient. I don't see.
Well, that's the accusation that some doctors do hook up.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I don't. You just have to do what you have to do, like where the opportunity presents itself.
Well, I mean, you and that bloody chiropractor went close to hooking up too.
But even I know where you have to draw the line. My friend told me this story this week.
Button?
Even I know where you have to draw the line. My friend told me this story this week. My friend, a female friend, who's
not Moo.
No, not Moo. I can't mention. I'm going to have to change a few of the details because it's involved. Anyway, she plays cello in a orchestra, and she played cello for this specific orchestra, right? Mm-hmm. And apparently, the cello player next to her, whenever she went into lean to change the sheet music, he'd put his hand on her thigh
inadvertently.
Well, just got suspicious after a while. Not inadvertently at all. Anyway, she was like, my God, I can't believe every time I do the sheet music, this guy puts his hand on my thigh, right? So then she said, listen, I'm going to have to do something about this. So she made a meeting with the director of the orchestra and said, so she could complain about the other cello player, right? So anyway, so she goes to meet with the director of the orchestra and she says, listen, every time I go in to lean over for the sheet music, he puts his hand on my thigh, the other cello player. And the director goes, that is outrageous. He really can't do that. That is unacceptable, what he has done. I'm going to do something about this. This is outrageous. Da-da-da-da. And then, after he says all that, he asks her out.
Oh, for God's sake.
Surely, that's like the one... if someone's there...
Yes...
complaining about sexual harassment.
Take advantage
you can't then ask out the girl on the date.
Sleaze.
Outrageous.
No good. But if he leant over and with his bow plucked her strings, that would be, I would have found that offensive.
Yes.
But see, poor bugger might be a bit blind or something. He doesn't know where his hands are. You know what I mean?
No.
So he couldn't trust you in your present condition with those eyes. So I was going to mention it before, but Martinkus was there. You had your hand on his thigh, see, trying to find the notes.
Coming up next, Louise Adler. This is Triple J. I'm John Safran. That's Father Bob. Our guest
Louise
CEO and publisher from Melbourne University Press. And I got you in because I've always been fascinated by how do you market, not you, how does book marketing work? Like, you look at the films and you buy ads and that influences people to go then down to the cinemas. Then you have like records, they come into the radio stations and they try to get the programmer to run the CDs. What makes a book sell?
Well, a number of things make the book sell. First of all, you've got to have a good book, and people know the difference between a good book and a bad book. The customer is right, usually. They make good judgments, and they actually end up one customer telling another or one reader telling another that you should buy this book because it's a good read. So word of mouth is the central way in which books are sold in Australia.
You can't trick people, can you, in Australia? Because the
market. You can fool some of the people some of the time. But
are there any names that will just sell regardless of quality?
If you're talking fiction, names like Bryce Courtenay, and I think he's a quality commercial fiction writer, but he sells very large quantities, more than any other Australian novelist does. Peter Carey sells, Tim Winton sells. Those names sell. So, that's... Women,
The River.
The Secret River, Kate Grenville. Yeah. I think that's selling well at the moment. I'm not sure that she's... I think she's guaranteed an audience because of the promotion and the ideas and the quality of the writing. But I don't think Kate Grenville is for someone people automatically buy. Because there's really one of the issues
Blokes
with Kate.
Mainly.
Yeah, but no, one of the issues is how long between books. And people like Keneally or Courtenay, Tom Keneally or Bryce Courtenay, will put out a book every couple of years. Yeah. So there's a good sort of relentless sort of stream of new books coming out. Whereas Kate doesn't publish all that much. She's, takes a long time and she crafts them. I mean, I think Carey does too, but, it's about the craft.
Now,
but we don't, just to finish, we don't actually spend, publishers in Australia don't spend a lot of money on advertising. It's not like the movie industry or the music business. And the flogging of the books happens through courtesy of programs like yours or magazines or reviews.
And does that work? And do reviews work? So if there's something in the Sydney Morning Herald or something in The Age, a good review, does that actually translate?
Well, people like Courtenay and Keneally who relentlessly get bad reviews because they're reviewed by people who don't like market. Oh, I think Keneally's not writing mass market fiction, but they don't like those two authors. The reviewers don't like them. Nevertheless, they sell. They sell like hotcakes.
Confusing. Because like in America, you have things like, like a bad restaurant review can kill your restaurant or kill your Broadway play or whatever, but you don't really have that in Australia.
And I don't think you can do the same for books. I don't think you can kill them if there's a kind of enough momentum behind them. But it depends on the genre, depends on the category you're talking about.
Now, you've had 3 recent books. One, the Mark Latham one, which... got into a media storm that must have been helpful for publicity, and I guess that was always going to happen. That was always going to happen. But then you've had 2. You've had Anthony Lowenstein's My Israel Question, and you've had Fast Loose Beginnings about to come out. Not out yet, is it?
It's out this week
by John Kinsella, and both of them somehow they've become news stories within themselves. Now, is that you being puppet master behind the scenes?
Dear listener, he's pointing his finger at me now.
Being able to kind of like create a good story that journalists are going to want to write about. Like with the John Kinsella book, that's about poets fighting and putting apprehended violence orders against each other?
Absolutely, AVOs. We certainly didn't calculate on a media storm over the John Kinsella Fast Loose Beginnings, a wonderful book, a celebration of poetry. That came about because a couple of poets took great exception to even the thought of a memoir coming out. They hadn't read the material. They just took great exception to the very idea of Kinsella writing a memoir. It's a very frank, excoriatingly honest book about himself and about the world of poetry since the 60s to now. That storm was created by the kind of barrage of emails that 2 poets were sending to him that he viewed as threatening, and a magistrate actually shared his view. And I don't think the magistrate writes poetry in her
I was hoping you were like P.T. Barnum or someone, and you just because it's such a good story. Poets fighting is such a good story. So how did the journalists find out about it to then start writing articles about it that would then be absolutely convenient for publicising the book?
Well, we had to alert the Byron Bay Writers' Festival that John Kinsella would not be appearing because he was frightened for his physical safety, and the magistrate agreed that he had cause to be frightened and he should stay at home in Perth. and wait for this AVO,
So no press releases from Melbourne University Press out to
We didn't
journalists.
need to. We didn't need to. They took up the story when there were journalists at the...
I'd respect you for doing that, by the way.
If we flogged the story mercilessly, we're a subtle crew.
It's all come out on the week of the release of the book, if you know what I mean. That's totally
You're looking sceptical.
I'm not I respect you if you've created... And then, because that's off the back of course, Anthony Lowenstein, who got lots of press for having a fight with politician Michael Danby.
Yes.
No. They're two separate stories in a way.
But they both revolve around fights with which journalists like to write stories about.
Correct, but that may say more about the media than about the gentlemanly game of publishing, because it is a gentlemanly. It's a very nice. Australia's a small
ladily game also.
Lately a game.
Ladily, not just gentlemanly.
What's ladily?
Like I'm just I'm being PC.
Ladily.
Yes.
Oh, ladily. Of course, it actually is a ladies' game because publishing is a very girly business, apart from at the top where it's not frequently girly. But anyway, normally it's a girly business, but that's a side issue. And the journalists picked up on the story. Journalists like a scrum, and a cultural scrum is good, has longevity. People, they enjoy it. So it's really the media who respond to the projects rather than us going out and soliciting publicity. It's a hard slog if you have to interest the media in your books. It's much easier when the media say, we really are interested, there's a story, we're going to go after it. The Latham Diaries were clearly going to be of importance. No one has published a record of, 10 years in parliamentary politics, 20 years in the Labor Party, the insider's view. There was no way it wasn't going to be of newsworthy, of news interest. And that was terrific. And what we had was all the sensationalism of the media really frothing at the mouth because they didn't like Latham's view of the media, his analysis of them as, I don't think he used the word, but piranhas, that he thought they were opportunistic and so on and so forth. In the end, what we got was serious reviews from people like John Button and Robert Mann and Neil Blewett, people like that, who actually took the book really seriously. For us as publishers, that's the main point of the game, not the media hoo-ha, but actually the serious engagement with the author's ideas.
Oh, come on, it's good fun getting in a fight. I know that, and that's how you sell
but I
a
think
book.
it's not. But it's not about fighting. That's not the interest. You want people to take and publishing's a very long business. It takes us usually. Well, the Latham we turned around in 3 months. That was a very fast process. But normally you're loving this book. Publishers are loving the books to death. For the book, the writer is loving the book to death, but to write it, and then we take about 7 to 12 months to make.
Now,
one
more thing about fights, and then we'll move on. Now, is this story true that you? Because, of course, the Anthony Lowenstein, who's the author, having a bit of a scuffle, not physical, just on paper, with Michael Danby, the politician, over his book My Israel Question. Did you go to school with Michael Danby?
I apparently was in the same year as Michael Danby. I have no recollection of Michael Danby. He has made no impact on my life or my memory of that school, really.
But he was in the same year as you.
I understand he was in the same year. Oh, well, he says he was. I believe him. I've got no reason to disbelieve him. But he certainly made no impression on me in my years at Mount Scopus College.
Because he came up at one point and saying you had some vendetta against him or whatever, and were sending Anthony Lowenstein out. That's why you're publishing his book, to get some kind of...
Then I've got a vendetta against but I don't know him. How would I have a vendetta? I mean, what basis would I fabricate a vendetta?
You don't need a basis for this program.
No, but I do. I'm a serious
you're an honest
publisher.
woman.
I'm an honest woman and a serious publisher, Bob.
You've stumbled into the wrong studio, madam.
I'm all confused.
774, you've missed it.
Yeah, where is Radio National, one might ask. However, yes, go on.
No, that's
so
it.
There's been no scuffle, that's complete, that's furphy. In fact... I mean, Michael Danby is not, in my kind of consciousness or sort of view of the, understanding of the world. No. He took umbrage. Well, and all I know is that he took umbrage or offence at questions that Anthony Lowenstein, the author of My Israel Question, was asking a range of people in the Jewish community to respond to a set of questions about some issues that he was raising, legitimate questions which any journalist poses if you want to kind of actually canvass views, right? Perfectly legitimate activity. It coincided with the publication here of a book by a British intellectual called Jacqueline Rose called The Question of Zion. She's a very erudite senior academic in the literary world in Britain. I think that there was a sense for Michael Danby. This is only read out of the letters, the public letters I've seen, reproduced in the Jewish News and other newspapers, was that he kind of was very concerned by this kind of publishing and exhorted the community to not give, I don't want to misquote him, but if I remember correctly, something like, do not give MUP, this is a disgusting
Melbourne
project.
University Press.
Melbourne University Publishing, do not give MUP $1, this is a disgusting project. Now, the manuscript, I think that week I received the first draft of the manuscript. So my only response was to write back to the community newspaper and propose that they might like to review the book a year out from publication, since already people seem to have a clear view about what the book was about. And, it wouldn't be tolerated in any broadsheet of any respect or repute, but if you'd like to review it, please go ahead, because actually having a view about the book before it's published seems to me to be, to put it mildly, ignorant or anti-intellectual. But so that was my response. So it's not, there was no, I mean...
There was a big fight, Bob.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it later.
There wasn't a big fight.
Now,
not at all.
Does a book...
Let me, I suppose I should finish and say, don't touch his thigh. Yes, right, he might get a frisson. Or frisson. You were just discussing that before.
Oh, you said I said frisson wrong.
Yes,
frisson. What did I say?
Frisson. Frisson.
Ah, you see.
What's the other one? What's the other one?
I don't know what a frisson is. I don't know. Maybe it's a
boiled egg.
It's like if you're more pretentious than most people but more stupid than most people at the same time, you make it sound more French. So you go frisson, like that. Sorry.
I can't remember. Keep going.
I want to ask a question.
Yeah, go.
Pierre's second book, Ludmilla's Broken English.
Pierre's second book?
Yeah, well, his first one was Vernon God Little.
DC. What's his name? DC Pierre.
Well, that's why I never mentioned the numbers.
Oh, that's right. I haven't read any of his novels. Do you like them?
I'm finding them fascinating. Because I don't know why.
Is he put out by Melbourne University Publishing?
No.
I think
this is just, we've got someone in the book industry, so just any question whatsoever about books.
Books. So that...
But we can have an urbane conversation, it's a kind of interesting question.
I think he suffers from Asperger's.
Right.
Not
but maybe it's just postmodernism.
Is a book like a film where it has to go gangbusters in the opening week for it to then have any traction? Or can it have a slow start and a slow build?
You can have a slowish start, but if you don't sell within 3 months, that's the kind of problem for Australian publishing at the moment. You get 3 months in the bookshops. If you don't work in 3 months, you're back in the warehouse. And all the risk is the publisher's risk. The bookseller doesn't buy the books. The terms of trade between publishers and booksellers are sale or return. So we lend them the books. We lend the bookseller the books, and he puts them on his bookshelf. And when he doesn't sell them, he just gives them back to us. And we pay to deliver them, and we pay to make them, then we pay to deliver them, and we pay to take them back.
But aren't they more likely to put them on the shelf for the public to then buy if the risk isn't there for them?
That's their theory.
Yes.
Whose side are you on here?
I'm on no one's side.
Yeah, well, get on the side of publishers.
I'm always on the side of the little guy. Who's littler, publishers or booksellers?
Publishers are mere putty in the hands of the
I'm so on the
booksellers.
side of the little guy. I'm on the side of the artists, the authors, but not only that, the poets, because they're really small. And then only if they photocopy it up into zines. That's the only side I'm on.
Would you kill to publish his book?
Safran?
Yes.
We don't do publishing foreplay on air. We do publishing foreplay later. Look, his eyes lit up at the word foreplay. Shame on you, young man.
I know, it's outrageous. Now, have these big book empires been good for Australia, like Borders opening up here? Has that been good for Australian book selling?
Probably for Australian readers it's been good, because if you want a price war, that's the way to have one. Independent bookshops, who are the ones that actually carry a lot of stock, who actually give customers, readers, real advice, excellent service, feel that that's kind of been a problem, because it's all about the discount.
But has it created more demand?
I don't think that's the case. What it does is put the pressure on. So it's really about pricing, so that the book that's $39.95 at your, whether it's a very good bookshop like Readings or Glebe Books, if that's what they price it at, it'll be $29.95 or it'll be $24.95 in Borders or Angus and Robertson, and that's the power of the chains. And that's a problem. And they minimise. They are not about stocking a large diversity of titles. They're about maximum impact with as few titles as possible. And that's a problem for publishers.
Where do you buy your books, Bob?
I buy my books at the Victoria Avenue bookshop.
which is a superb bookshop.
And where lovely Kristen, who wrote the book on the Yarra River, Otto.
So should I hang on? So from a moral perspective, should I be going to an independent bookstore rather than into Borders? This is a real life situation for me. It's not a hypothetical.
No.
I don't
well,
think about it that
business.
hard.
We have to do business with all sides. If you talk to an independent, they'd say, come to us. There are benefits for going to independent bookstores. We need to support the book-selling industry is what we need to do. So you need to spread your kind of resources, spend your salary, magnificent salary from the
I've got this
ABC.
theory about independent bookstores. Tell me what you think about it. Which is that they used to be, like before Borders came, they used to be quite... Not pretentious is the wrong, but there used to be that thing of it's not a library, for example. So you'd be like in some little bookstore and like you actually felt bad about touching things and reading there for too long, right? And then when Borders came along, it forced them to pull up their bootstraps and be more accommodating to the customers.
I don't think that's fair. I think they've always given great service. Seriously, I really do. If I think of the good, really major independents,
I know of a bookshop that before Borders actually had a sign up saying this is not a library.
Well, that's antithetical to the business of being in the book trade, isn't it? Not to let the customers handle the books and to look at them and to stand there reading them. They may buy them, they may not buy them. I think most booksellers, large or small, chain or independent, actually take a different view now. Everything's to make you feel comfortable. Borders isn't, the whole kind of layout and, environment is all designed to make you feel comfortable, sit down on an armchair, listen to the music, enjoy the book. We don't care if you buy it, we don't care if you don't. Well, that's all about enjoying the customer. Eat and drink.
Has Amazon.com and... what's the other one? Barnes and Noble. Have they affected book sales in Australia?
I think they have, because you get frustrated if you want that overseas title. You go to Amazon.com and it's a seamless process. Actually, I think that it probably takes 2 weeks for a local bookshop to bring the book in. I may be wrong about those figures. I haven't ordered books for a long time like that. But Amazon is, probably, is it a week to order a book off Amazon? I can't remember. But you have to add on postage. I don't know whether you get books much cheaper by ordering them that way.
It's like a psychological thing. You get to have like this impulse buy, and you have no cooling off period. Like if you're going to say, I'll head off down to that bookstore and then buy it, then along the way you can cool off. Amazon.com. It's a bit like my Crown Casino. I get out of control, and I wake up in a sweat. What have I done?
You go to Crown Casino?
No, not
No, I wouldn't either, Bob.
What have I done? I've spent all my money on Amazon.com.
I blessed Crown Casino in the beginning with the holy water.
Did you? Shame on you,
As
Bob.
a symbol.
A symbol of what?
Those who work here are to be acknowledged as human beings.
Yes, but in what cause are they working? Sorry to drift off the
Their
problem
own
of public.
personal pleasure.
Attack him. It's okay.
I think it's... what do you mean personal pleasure? I would wish that they find work elsewhere.
Oh, indeed.
Gambling? Do we not view it as a kind of a disease and a vice? And
minor form of gambling for most.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Do you have a
gambling.
view, Mr. Safran?
I'm
You've got no views at all.
No,
That's not true. I'm a bit of a, I'm a bit of a libertarian.
You're an entrepreneur.
So,
About gambling?
So that people have to take responsibility, I guess. But,
who's making money out of the gambling?
Yes, but
how do we get onto this, for God's sake? 1 minute we're peacefully talking about books.
Oh, you don't like it when people...
You've divided it.
This is what the problem... in Australia, what happens is people just don't like having confrontation. So people like Bob go along and he just says whatever he wants to say, and people just nod their heads and he thinks everyone agrees with him all the time. Bob, this is the reality is that her viewpoint about you endorsing the casino is held by many.
Oh, look, I've just been given his credit card. Listeners, I should just tell you that I've got the Maguire credit card here for Borders, and I might share it with Safran. If he gives
only
me
a
good
voucher.
run. Oh, it's a voucher? Is it a voucher? It's a very snazzy
See,
voucher.
they send you that at Chrissy, and now I don't know how much that's worth.
That's right, because it doesn't tell you. Well, that's a good con, isn't it?
See what I mean? So I've got to go in there to Mr. Border.
And
Mr. Who is it?
Well, it's Borders.
I say, excuse me, madam. Yes, she says.
Madam. Very PC.
Yes, and she says, the elderly men's home is down the street. They always say that. They look for my plastic wrist, thing. And I was saying, no, darling, here's plastic, look. Oh, she says, I'm terribly sorry, sir. And then I say, how much credit have I got on my... And she said, oh, that's bad luck. That's only the price of a magazine.
That's
cool. And I was hoping to buy the whole, Adam Smith trilogy.
But really what you want to buy is some fine books from MUP or the Maguire Press, which you would like.
Can
I go into flog mode?
Yeah.
Yes,
What's the Maguire Press?
The Maguire Press is a fabulous bequest that we were given by Russell Grimwade, who was a very important philanthropist.
What does that word mean, though, Maguire?
Philanthropist?
No.
Maguire means our home. Indigenous?
Yeah.
Indigenous word for our home. Anyway, it's a very important bequest, and it gives us money to make magnificent books, like a wonderful book that we did from an art teacher called Geoffrey Barden, who died a couple of years ago, about the Papunya art movement in the Western Desert District. And it's a superb book, and you two should know it.
We should know
Vanity
it.
Publishing.
It's not Vanity
No,
Publishing.
I'm not. No, I was
incredibly
segueing to another topic.
Oh, Vanity Publishing. Sorry,
Is that okay? Vanity Publishing.
Vanity Publishing has got a little... It's okay, but, if you want to publish your grandmother's history, you should probably get someone run up a book for you. But it's not the stuff of real publishing. It's perfectly legitimate enterprise.
Director's throwing us out.
Louise Adler, thanks for coming on in and defending yourself against my accusations that, you like starting up fights to get in the media.
It's a pleasure to have been here. Remember, Frisson spelt F-R-I-S-S-O-N.
Sunday Night
Thank you,
Safran
ma'am.
on Triple J.
Thank you, Father Bob. This is Triple J. Speaking of books, I've got to read 2 books in the next 2 weeks. So I'm going on that book club show on the ABC. Have you seen that?
Truly.
Where we have to sit around.
What, Spicks and Specks or something?
No, it's Jennifer Burns' book club or something.
Oh, that'll be lovely.
I'm not going to be able to read one of the books. They came in the mail, right? One of them. This one I'll be able to chug through. It's 169 pages, large print.
Yeah.
Longitude: The True Story of the Lone Genius Who Solved the Greatest Scientific Problem of His Time by Dava Sabel. I'll be able to get through that.
Yeah.
The other one's 387 pages or something.
Get somebody to read it for you.
Actually, I think it's more. I think it is actually chugging through the mid-400s.
Oh, too much.
It's by some Carlos Rodriguez. It's some
What, a
1,000
Spaniard or
Years of
somebody?
Solitude kind of that genre. Not that book though.
No.
Not exactly that.
Pay
book.
somebody
100
to
years.
read it for you and then to talk to you.
You
That's
reckon?
all. Yeah, summarise it. That's all.
But maybe Jennifer
Or
Burns will
Google
pick
it.
me up. Will pick me up on it.
No, you can carry off the day. How dare you, madam, insinuate that I haven't read the book? My lawyer immediately be in touch with you. That'd be the end of the... You know what I mean?
My mother used to have a book club, and what it would be about 10 minutes of talking about the book, because it was with all her friends, 10 minutes about reading the book, and then just going into gossip.
Yeah.
Everyone trying to talk up their children's achievement.
Yes.
So it'd be and just trying to segue their children's achievement into regular conversations. I wasn't just my child's more successful than your child.
Course.
It was just oh, yes, actually, John's he's just got
Just been
this
appointed
thing
the Australian ambassador to Paris.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And trying to make it sound like regular conversation. Do you reckon it's good when your parents try to... Because it's probably good because it means it's better than if they're trying to put you down all the time.
Oh, hopefully. There's a show on television now when they actually bring the parents in front of the camera and say to them, now, listen, I want you during this coming week to say nice things to your child. As though, the poor soul had to be taught to say nice things to her child. Never heard a nice thing from her mother in her life, the child. You see? Whereas with yours would have come naturally. Such a pleasant child as you. Your mother probably spent her whole life, God rest her soul, boasting about what a nice son she had. Yeah, go on. So next week we're going to have...
Don't mention her name because we don't know.
No name. We're not too sure about her name. We're
run
having
out
her.
of time, so we can't. We're going to have to talk to the Persian girl.
Yeah, all right.
Who recently refused an arranged marriage proposal.
Yes. All right. So tonight we had Louise Adler, who's the CEO of Melbourne University. We've had Roland Kapferer, and we had John Martinkus. Lucky we, weren't we? Plus magnificent music from the library of Triple J. And don't forget my blog page, whatever it is, fatherbob.com.au. See what you think.
have to have the .au, or else you go to some...
You said to some sleaze site.
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't know that. There's been sleazy people putting their names up on my thing.
In what
On
regard?
my forum members list. A terrible fright. Press the button and there's a naked staring at me from my own screen of my own privacy, my own room. Plus outside, like that on the door probably, the sexual exploitation unit. Set up.
What?
Well, you know what these... What do you call it? Mash. What do you call it? Not mash. Spam.
A spam?
Yeah. Do you see the link between spam and mash? No. Anyhow, thanks for having me. Good night.
Now, of course, the show goes for 2 hours, which means I'm going to have to put in these eye drops now again.
Which one? You can see your eyes to put them in?
Conjunctivitis.
Yeah.
I really have 2 days in a row I've woken up unable to open my
Open your eyes?
Yeah, because it's...
Poxed.
It's glued together.
If anybody out there...
Thank you very much, chiropractor, who coughed on me.
Yeah. So if you know anybody out there who's responsible for this, I'd like you to let me know.
See you next week.